Welcome to Scott Cooks. Today I'm going to be cooking a pork shoulder. This is a really large one. This is an 8-pound pork shoulder and it is frozen solid. I'm going to be putting it in the Ninja Foodi and we're going to pressure cook it for 2 hours. Then we'll do a natural pressure release for about 15 minutes or so. And then I'm going to drain it. Maybe leave it in there, and I'm going to add a little broth to it, and then we're going to slow cook it for the rest of the day. Then we'll just eat off of it, and then throughout the week I'll be making various recipes with it. I've got quite a few things in mind, because this is a pretty big pork shoulder here. Okay, we've got the 8-pound pork shoulder in the foodie, and I'm going to be adding 3 cups of water. Yeah. And that was 2. One more. So I'm not going to put any flavorings or anything in it right now. I just really the idea here is just to get it thawed out. We're going to be slow cooking it the rest of the day. I'll start a couple hours on high and then drop it to low. And during that phase, I'll throw in some bay leaves and some flavored broth and maybe some onions, some other things. Let's get the lid on. Alright, we're going to make sure that's on seal. And we're ready to cook this guy up. Defaults to high, we'll just leave it there. And I want 120 minutes. Let's see if we can just hold it to see what it does. There's 1 hour. I want 2 hours. 2 hours. Good to go. Alright, we'll check back in a couple hours. Alrighty, it's gone 2 hours. I let it do a natural pressure release for about 20 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and vent it. I'm going to drain some of the liquid out when this is finished, and then get some seasonings in there. Pop it on slow cook for the rest of the day. Probably about 6 hours, so I'll do about 2 hours on high, slow cook high, and then I'll drop it to 4 hours on slow cook low. For seasonings, I'm going to put this onion in. It's not very big, about a medium size, small, medium. I'm going to put in 3 or 4 green onions as well. I like those, they have a different flavor than this. And I know this has chicken on it, but this has such a good flavor. This is better than bouillon roasted chicken base. It goes really good with pork. I've tried it before. So I'm going to put about a teaspoon, maybe 2 teaspoons. Mix it up in there in the liquid, just to give it some really good flavor. And throw all this in, kind of stir it around, and let her cook. Now that was from frozen, seriously, right out of the freezer. You can already see it's pulled away from the bone. That's pretty much cooked. An 8-pound pork shoulder cooked in 2 hours from frozen. That is pretty impressive if you ask me. But we're going to make it a little better. Alright, I drained out a lot of the liquid. You see it was all the way up to the top almost. I left about 2 cups. You can see it down in there, about 2 cups. I'm going to go ahead and get some seasoning in. Alright, we're going in with the yellow onion. Just going to put it around the edges. Alright, sprinkled in some green onion as well. And these are dried bay leaves. Poisonous to eat, but they're not poisonous, but they might make you sick, but they're excellent for flavoring stuff like this. I got a huge batch of them here, so I'm just gonna pull out a couple, about 3 nice sized ones. That one's okay. Just got to make sure when you're done, you find them and don't serve them. Just get them out of there. But I've been using these my whole life. These are fantastic. So what you want to do is just get them right down in the liquid. And they're going to do 2 things there. We're going to flavor this, and they're also going to make the house smell fantastic. I love bay leaves. Alright, we'll seal that up in a minute. And we're going to do One last thing, we're just going to sprinkle all around with our pink salt, black pepper. Just give it a good right down in the liquid on the sides, and then we'll cover the top just like that. And I don't want to get too many seasonings going here because I do plan on using this for other things as well when I'm done. We'll have just some tonight just as it is, and then I'm going to make some other things too. Okay, so power up, slow cook. Now slow cook defaults to high, which is what I want in this case. And we're going to do, the maximum is 2 hours, or 4 hours I'm in. Okay, so I don't think I can adjust that. It just kind of does what it does. So I'll just set my timer. Alright, now for this you want it on vent. You got to be on vent when you're slow cooking, or you're going to build pressure and you don't want that. I'm going to start it, and I'm just going to set myself for 2 hours over here. There we go. So in 2 hours, I'll come back, turn it off, switch it to low cook, slow, finish it up for the rest of the day. Oh, now I gotta clean this mess up. See you in 2 hours. All right, past the 2 hour mark here. What we're gonna do is just sort of check it out. Now you can see that because we have the vent on, the button is down, so it's safe to remove the lid. We're not pressure cooking, we're slow cooking. I just take this over to the sink and drain the water out. Alright, let's take a look at it before we drop it down to low. Oh, we're doing very well here. Excellent. Look at that. Yeah, that's coming out. It's coming out real nice. Alright, go ahead and get the lid back on. There you go. Make sure we're still over on vent. And what we're going to do is just stop it. Slow cook. Switch that down to low and hit start. Crank that up to 6 hours, 45 minutes. It's just finishing. It's an 8 hour maximum. It's just finishing the rest over time I had on there. And we're going to go about 5.5 hours before dinner. And then this will be great. Alright, that was about another 5 hours or so. And I can guarantee it's cooked now. I did flip it over about 3 hours ago. Just took a wooden spoon and rolled it. And so that's why the fat's on the top now. It was on the bottom. That is fantastic. I'm going to get this out onto a plate. Get some slices off for dinner. Alright, I just peeled some of the fat away. It's too big and heavy to try to flip over again. But there you go. Don't even need a knife. Look at it, it's just falling apart. And we're going to make, I'm using air quotes, we're going to make a Brunswick stew. The reason I used air quotes is, of course, traditional Brunswick stew is not made with pork roast, but with chicken and other things. But we're going to do our version of it, because I have a lot left over. So what we'll be using today is some chicken broth, onion, crushed tomatoes, some barbecue sauce, regular potatoes, got some frozen peas, got some frozen corn, and of course the pork roast. Now I'm not going to put that in yet. Normally if it wasn't cooked, I would shred it up, throw it in here at the beginning for the slow cooker. I don't need to put that in until a couple hours near the end. So for now we're just going to get all the liquids and potatoes cooking, and we'll throw the pork in about 2 hours before we're done. It's 11 o'clock in the morning here. I'll be doing slow cook on low all day, so about 4 o'clock I'll put the pork in for the last 2 hours. Let's get started. First thing in the Ninja Foodi is going to be 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes. This is not from concentrate. These are just real crushed tomatoes. If you don't have that available, just get
28 ounces or so of tomatoes and just chop them up or throw them in a food processor or something. So, all right. Next up, we're going to get the chicken broth. We're going to do 14 ounces of chicken broth. All right, it's 14 ounces. It's about 2 cups. I'm just using regular reduced sodium chicken broth instead of my Better Than bouillon. I don't need the extra flavors from the Better Than bouillon in this. I've got tons of other flavors going in. So we're going to go ahead and just pour that in. Next, we're going to put in 18 ounces of barbecue sauce. I'll be using a completely organic version of barbecue sauce. We hate high fructose corn syrup in our house. Try to never eat it anywhere, ever. I'm not going to get into that, but you should Google it, how bad it is for you. So anyway, no high fructose, no chemicals, no fertilizers, whatever. We try to get the best stuff we can get. All right, next up is 9 ounces of frozen corn, 9 ounces of peas. In my case, I wanted to get lima beans, but I forgot to buy lima beans, so I'm going to use peas instead. So we've got 9 ounces of lima, 9 ounces of frozen corn. All right, there's the peas and the corn. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and chop up these potatoes, small pieces, and cut up the onion. And then we're going to throw those in. I'm going to go ahead and let the Foodi start warming up now. We're going to use the slow cook feature. It defaults to high. We're going to put it on low since it's so early in the day. And just go ahead and start that. And let's go ahead and cut the other stuff up. Onions are in, fairly big pieces. This is a stew. You want this is going to break up when it cooks, but you want bites of stuff, chunks of stuff. I'm going to go ahead and peel these potatoes now and get those in. I've been asked a few times, I keep forgetting to mention, you guys see my stuff laying around. These are Cutco knives. I only use Cutco knives in my kitchen. So it's my favorite. I've had them, I don't know how long, these set of knives. Never sharpened them. I've probably had them 20 years. And they're super sharp still today. Great knife. All right, all the potatoes are in. We'll be mixing that up in a sec. 6 tablespoons of light brown sugar going in next, and just a teaspoon or so of salt. I'm going to use sea salt. Well, and there you have it. I'm going to go ahead and mix this up real nice. Start getting the liquid hot. I'll come back and give it a couple more stirs to dissolve all that brown sugar. And boy, can't you just imagine what this is going to taste like? This is going to be amazing. And don't forget the main ingredient. In about 4 hours from now, I'll be putting in the shredded pork that I made from the Boston butt, which is really like pork shoulder. The butt of the shoulder, I think, is what it is. Okay, guys, to do your slow cooking, we do use the pressure lid. We make sure it's on vent. We go over here and double check everything. Defaults to 8 hours. I'm gonna not go the full 8, of course. And that's it. That's the recipe. Brunswick stew made from that Boston butt pork roast we did the last time in here. And this should be great. We'll check back in about 4 hours and put the pork in. All right, it's about time to put the pork in. This was in the refrigerator. This came off the big roast that I did a couple days ago. There's about, I don't have my scale with me, but I'm going to guess about 4 pounds here. I also froze another couple pounds. I'm going to make barbecue out of that later. So I'm going to take about half of this, about 2 pounds, about half of this. I'm going to cut it into some, chunks. About half the size of that one. Because this is a stew I'm making. I'm not trying to shred it for barbecue. I want bite-sized chunks to come out. So I'm going to go ahead and chop this up, about half of this, and get it into the stew. Speaking of stew, this is where we are with that. Steaming up again. The smell is just incredible. Maybe one day YouTube will have smell-o-vision. What do you think? If you were here right now, you'd probably grab a spoon and get a big spoonful of that. Doesn't even have the pork in it yet. It's about the size I'm looking for. Now this is sort of falling apart as I'm chopping it because it was, pressurized and then slow cooked. So it's pretty tender. That's what I'm looking for. That's a good bite right there. So I'm going to chop about half of this up, get it in, stir it up. All right, I got all that in. The remainder of this is going to be in another dish. Will be like part 3 of the pork roast. I'm making a soup out of this with white beans, cumin, beef broth. You're going to love it. That's coming up probably in a couple days. I got to do it quick because I didn't freeze it. I'm just keeping that in the fridge. I went ahead and tasted this, and the potatoes are not cooked because I started this late. What I'm going to do is go ahead and stop it. We're going to take it to high and fire it back up. Now high is a maximum of 4 hours, so it's just finishing. I said 4 hours. What am I talking about? I think it'll go, well, whatever, it doesn't matter because I'm not going that far anyway. Okay, let's make sure we're on high. Okay. Alright, so we're going to throw it on high, slow cook, probably till we're ready to eat. Another 2.5 hours. Potatoes weren't cooking as quickly as I like them to. So we'll check back, and next time we check back, it'll be dinner time. Got to figure out something to make with this. What do you think? Maybe a cornbread? I make a lot of cornbread, but I really like it. Maybe a salad. We'll figure it out. Okay, we have Brunswick stew, Scott style. I did make cornbread. Got a little margarine on there. Put some honey on it. So this came out really nice. Made a lot of leftovers. I'll probably freeze some up for another meal too. If you like this video, please subscribe. Leave me some comments. Please hit the bell, thumbs up, the like button. Hit the bell for notifications. I want to thank everybody for watching. Here you go. Enjoy.